Roberto De Zerbi's first game in charge of Spurs, and he hasn't been given the easiest hand, as we've all probably heard by now. Kudus is out for the season, so thanks Vinay, thanks Langa for not panicking in January. Not like we don't have any fit proper wingers at the club right now, but I still have belief that we can get 3 points here. I genuinely do. I think that new manager bounce has to sometimes be with a manager that is really providing something very different, injecting something new and fresh. I think the switch from Frank to Tudor was quite a similar style, not massively different. But this is something that's going to be a huge shake-up. So hopefully that carries us a bit. Now I'm not expecting a win, but I do think it's definitely possible. But today we're going to talk about the matchup against Sunderland specifically, how I think we'll line up, how I think we can get the better of them, how they might be able to threaten us. And yeah, we'll just go through that. So before I do that, please do make sure you are subscribed. Please do that, guys. 'Cause a lot of you who are watching are not subscribed. We have many videos each week, so please do that. Like and share and comment and all those things as well. But without further ado, let's get into it. So this is how I see him lining up. Or this is kind of a combination between predicted lineup, but also what I kind of want to happen. There's a couple features where I maybe expected to be slightly different, but this is what I would go with. Now, we've got Kinski in goal because Vicario's having that operation. Now, I think Kinski actually has a bit of a chance here. If he has a positive game, we know how important build-up is for De Zerbi. And we know, despite his mistakes against Atleti, he's our best ball-playing goalkeeper. Now, Vicario is definitely the better shot stopper, etc. But if Kinski shows up this game, it might be a debate whether or not Vicario comes back and claims his place, because obviously Vicario hasn't been great this season either. Now, I think Van der Ven and Romero as two centre-backs. Again, it's hard to know because I think there's possibility that the De Zerbi could go with a back three, especially the fact that we have no wingers and get his width from his fullbacks. So in that case, it would probably be something more like that, or even Danso in the middle and Romero out here, and then like a lopsided back four at times, or sorry, even more likely that way, with Tel tucking in. But I think it's going to be the back four. I do think that. So Romero and Van der Ven, as I've said, Romero very key in the build-up phase, playing into the double pivot. Udogie and Porro will come on to, because I think their role will be important. In the pivot, I've got Sarr and Gray. Now, Gray, I think, as we probably all agree, is a no-brainer. I think Sarr and Bergvall's a toss-up, but I think being away to Sunderland, who have been pretty good this season, I think you probably want a bit more steel in there. Now, it could be one of the other guys. It could be Gallagher. It could be Polina. This is what I think and what I hope will happen. The game, I think, could be quite stretched at times, so I think Sarr is very good for that. Gray is probably our best midfielder right now, so that he's a no-brainer. The left winger picks himself. We don't have any wingers. Like I said, Tel's been pretty solid last month or so. I'm really excited for him under De Zerbi, so that one makes sense. You've got the front two. Now, again, this could also be Gallagher and Solanke. Could also be Richarlison and Solanke. But I think, and I hope it will be these two, Simmons and Solanke. Now, like I said, it's often a double up front. Obviously, you'll probably see Simmons dropping in more, potentially dropping in to help build at times. If Sunderland press really high, they might want an extra body there, because we know De Zerbi likes to overload this first phase, so it could be something like that. However, I do think Solanke and Simmons is the best idea. And then obviously we're without Kudus, we're without a right winger once again. Now, I don't like Muani on the right flank. I don't. But this is the best possible answer for me. And I think the way we make this work is having these two really drop in as like double sort of false nines at times when we do build, and not always at the same time necessarily. But if we just put the opposition in quickly, if you see the opposition, pressing very high like this, then you ask these centre-backs questions whether or not they're going to go with these guys. And what that creates is this massive space in here. Now, this might not be the way we go, but it is possible. And I also don't think that they might not drop at the same time. They might drop one after another. So you might get something like Simmons staying high at this point. Solanke dropping in to receive off Gray if he's got a bit of time on it. And then we get whether or not this guy follows. If he follows, then you've got Muani. And Muani is a quick vertical runner. Like, he can run for sure. If over long distances as well. And Hume, I think that's a bit of a mismatch. I really do think, I think he's quite a weak player, which is why I was so excited for Kudus to play. Now, this might be Reynildo as well, who's also a left back, but potentially Hume played the last game, so it could be Hume. That's a mismatch for me. And Muani able to kind of run beyond like that. Now, if Solanke, if the centre-back Alderte or whoever it is at left centre-back follows, Solanke can turn on it and he finds that kind of stuff easy and he can slip through, then you've got the space to run into. So that's what I'd look for from Muani. Now, that might only happen once or twice in the game, but I think that is how you can hurt the opposition. At times also, this guy might not follow Solanke, in which case he can turn and then carry it towards, and then again, you get those out to him runs. Now, when it's more settled possession play and we're just working our way up the pitch, this is where I worry a little bit about Muani because I don't really like his play out on these flanks. But potentially, what we can do is get him again running kind of more centrally and have the width provided by Porro. Kind of the same on this side with Udogie. Now this has its downsides because at times I feel like it's going to be a bit risky because we've got no width holders in the team. I think at times you're going to have to get that from the fullbacks. Now, that might mean we play a back three, but it does leave these spaces open and Sunderland will like to exploit that, but we'll come on to that after. Now, Sunderland for most of the season have liked to play man-to-man aggressively. Now, it's difficult to know because everyone knows what De Zerbi wants to do, right? Every coach will know what he wants to do. So Sunderland, I wouldn't be that surprised if they just sat off. But also, they might think Spurs have only had, they haven't played a game under De Zerbi yet. Their patterns aren't going to be perfect. So let's try and nick it high up. So it could go either way. But I reckon they will press. They're at home. So it will be something like very man-to-man like this. And Spurs, like I've kind of spoken about, will try and draw that press in. Something like that into Sarr, and as Van der Ven looks to play that pass with Gray with a man on his back, Sarr would have already dropped off to make that movement, gets a little bit of time, he's now facing play, and maybe then we can spring an attack. Maybe he plays the tell, or maybe Simmons pulls out here, he plays into Simmons' feet, and then we're going. That's kind of what we're going to be trying to do. However, two things. One, Sunderland's man-to-man press is pretty good. Like someone like Siddiqui is very good at nicking things. And Xhaka, is a very experienced player as well. But also these guys aren't, they aren't the masters at this kind of stuff. So it's still going to be risky. Now, Romero, and I think Romero specifically, will take a lot of responsibility in build-up. So we use him a lot because he's composed and he's so good with his passing. He can also play probably longer into Solanke's feet. Let's say we get a little bit cramped over here. Brobby's pressing. They're all kind of closing in. That's a possible pass in Romero's locker easily into Solanke's feet, whether or not there's a man up him. I think that pass is going to be very useful. But yeah, I think they will go man to man, in which case we may or may not get to see the beauty of De Zerbi's build up. Maybe we won't see it yet, but that I think that plays into our hands a little bit if they really have a go. The alternative is that they sit off and then it becomes a very bitty and slow game and Spurs have a lot of possession and not doing really much with it. But I'd expect Sunderland to really have a go. So we may see some risky passes and some risk taking in this area, but that's De Zerbi-ball. So yeah. Now, when we do get into the final third, which I don't have huge confidence about us getting into that often because of the lack of wide threats and stuff like that. Like I said before, I want to see a lot of kind of this positioning where one of the 10s or the strikers drops off and the winger makes those out to in runs. What we've got to be really careful of, because I think we're going to get a lot of our width from the fullbacks, hopefully especially that left side, because Udogie is a very good width holder. You're gonna, like I said, leave these spaces open. Now, this is where rest defense becomes important. So there's different ways you could probably combat this. You potentially ask, because I think a 2-2 build-up shape is just too risky. Sorry, a 2-2 rest defense shape is just too risky because of those spaces out wide. So there's different ways we can kind of combat this. You have Porro sit in a bit more. Van der Ven is a wide centre back there, and you have this more 3-2 shape that gives much more protection across the pitch. And then you ask Muani to be the main width holder, which really isn't ideal, but there's not, many other options. And you have Udogie as the left width holder. Another option is something like this, where Gray drops into the back three, might even be on the right centre back role. And then you have kind of this more shape, which looks like a back three sometimes. But that leaves Sarr quite exposed in the middle, so you maybe then have Porro drifting in more, or maybe you have Tell drifting in here, Simmons dropping a bit deeper, and Udogie. So there's different ways around it. I think we'll probably try to look for this 3-2 shape in different ways. But that is going to be vital to protect that back line, because Sunderland do have some tricky wingers. Now, Chris Rigg might not play. He was very good against Newcastle, but they also have other wingers. But Taubi is a very good, in behind threat. So yeah, it's likely to be these two. So I think, that left flank, Chris Rigg's not a real vertical threat. Taubi's more of a vertical threat. So we have to be more aware of this, our right flank, which is always a worry when you've got Porro defending that. He's less of an athlete, so slower to get back. But that's what we've got to be aware of. Sunderland nicking it, playing very quick, and vertical, and us being exposed back there, similar to kind of the issues we might have seen under Ange a little bit. And I don't really, De Zerbi's out of possession game is a bit all over the place. So you might see kind of Ange-esque moments where things just look a bit messy. But that is kind of De Zerbi-ball. So yeah, that's one point. And then the other point I want to make is, we really don't want to get into a situation where Sunderland are just controlling the game. So, Sunderland's key man is Xhaka, right? Now, I think it's going to be really important for us to make sure that Xhaka doesn't get time to dictate play. And I'm sure De Zerbi will play very aggressively. So you'll probably see someone like Van der Ven getting tight to Diarra, or you'll see the vice versa, Romero getting tight to Diarra. It depends which side he goes on, obviously. But we'll probably want to go man-to-man and very aggressive, and we cannot let Xhaka play. So I do see Sarr probably being the one to jump from midfield because of how many legs he's got to get back. And then you'll see Simmons pressing one centre-back and Solanke pressing the other, while wingers take fullbacks, etc. This cannot be a slow one. If he's able to turn and then start picking passes, which he's very good at, passes like that, which are just kind of game-breaking passes, then Sunderland will get control of the game, and not just get control of the game, they will hurt us. So he's the main man to press. Now, it might be something a little bit less brave. It might be you leave one centre-back spare, and you let one of their centre-backs have the ball. Someone like Simmons will sit on Xhaka, or vice versa, Solanke sit on Xhaka. And we let someone like 09 have the ball, who's very, very poor on the ball, as you saw for that first Newcastle goal in the derby. So yeah, that's that probably feels safer to me as well. So that might be what we go with. The last point I want to make is about this man, because he absolutely tore us apart at White Lane this season. They do have the options of going direct to him because his hold-up play is so good. He is an absolute beast. He's so good at his hold-up play, and he's just a handful. So Sunderland, if we do press high, that's not job done, because they can give him stuff that's kind of feeding off scraps, and he can bring it down and protect the ball and bring others into play. So we have to be really aware of that. I think sometimes we'll probably... Now I'm thinking of it, we'll probably leave a centre-back spare, just so they can at times go one in front, one behind with him, because Sunderland do like to play direct to him. So if they do kind of let one of their centre-backs have the ball, then we can go man-to-man after that. So you leave one man spare, and then you have a man spare at the back where you can protect yourself from this absolute unit. Now, he's not that doesn't scare me as much, especially with Van de Ven. But this kind of stuff where he pins them on kind of this area and then able to bring in others, that's the more scary part. So if you allow Romero to be kind of more aggressive and try and win high up and Van de Ven sweep up behind, then that's less of a threat. And he's in very good form, and I do rate him. He's a good player. Now, the other potential lineups, I'll just give a few different kind of potential lineups. I think one option is a back three, something like this, with probably more something like that. And you could 100%. He's just talked up Richarlison in the press conference. So I think if it's a back three, I think you're probably more likely to see Richarlison. Now, even with a back four, you might see Richarlison on the right flank over Kolo Muani, although I prefer Kolo Muani because he's more athletic. So that's an option. You could even see Gallagher there. You could even see Gallagher in the three with on the right flank. That right flank is just a real issue. So yeah, that's a possible one. And then the other outside point, maybe not for this game, but I just think Tynan Thompson needs to start being integrated because we have 0 wingers. I just think it's astonishing that we have only 0 wingers, and he is probably the best natural winger at the club, which is insane. But he is a 1v1 threat, and De Zerbi does like 1v1 threat, so he needs to be involved. I really think he needs to be involved. And we need to have that threat at least off the bench at some point. So I'd like to see him be on the bench. And yeah, that's majorly it. Hopefully Spurs can get a result in this game, and hopefully start a bit of a turnaround for their form. Now, the Kudus injury is a huge hit, but new manager, fresh ideas, fresh feeling around the club. Hopefully we can get a result. Come on, you Spurs.